Hi there, thanks for joining us today. It's great to be here. And today I'm here with Glen Cruz. Hi, Glen, nice to see you.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, look, I really appreciate your time. Hey, Glen. Glen is an employment lawyer specialist with Countdown Supermarkets and is also an adjunct lecturer with us at the College of Law. So good to have you here and just to get some of your perspective over how you're going and how you've been over the last little while, of course, as the world has changed. So how are you going?
Yeah, yeah, that's quite the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's I'm going fine. I think the answer is always relative, and I think uh, uh, relative to other people, I consider myself to be in a lucky, privileged position. We're in a country that has really sort of tackled this virus or pandemic really well. So, in that sense, I guess I'm always feeling a sense of gratitude.
Right.
All you got to do is jump online and Google what the virus is doing to other countries, and I try and look at the positives and go, I feel lucky to be here.
Yeah,
So,
no.
so yes, while it has been bad and rough initially, and it came to a shock to the system, but for the most part, I'm going fine because, yeah, I think we're in a good place to be.
Yeah. Good point, isn't it? That sense of understanding that on one level it is a bit tough and there's a lot of anxiety, but also just pausing and being a bit thankful and a bit grateful for what is around us.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that kind of gives you, the fuel to sort of move forward and not sort of dwell on the negative.
Yeah.
It's gratitude. I think is a great thing to be very mindful of.
Yeah, absolutely. So the world did shift a little, didn't it? And many of us all of a sudden were thrown into, gosh, having to work from home, kind of closing the networks that we had. So how have you managed that? What have some of your learnings be around that kind of constriction and, being confined to the home?
Yeah, well, I think it really shows that people can adapt and work in an online environment.
Mm,
And I think especially with lawyers and law firms, there is this sort of notion of, being seen, the whole leaving your jacket on your chair
yeah.
type sort of scenario. And I would like to think that those sorts of notions will slowly move away,
Yeah.
because there is going to be a focus on moving online, and also, I guess, a recognition that it's totally doable. We
Mm,
have technology that I think is being underutilized.
yeah.
And so, sure, it's always great to be personable and go to someone and say, hey, let's discuss this. But really, it's not a huge difference to pick up the phone and have the same conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So with that, I guess what we noticed, and I've certainly noticed, is, the blurring of some boundaries, being at home, working at home, kind of
Mm.
how do you sort of maintain that when the boundaries have blurred? What tips have you got and how have you kind of navigated that?
Yeah, with great difficulty.
Mm, yeah,
It's not been easy. Well, yeah, because you sort of sleep and play and work in the same
yeah,
environment, and there's really, you're seeing sort of memes about commuting from the bathroom to the kitchen to the dining area, and I can relate to that. But I think, to me, the only thing that's really worked is actually removing myself from that environment and going out of the house.
yeah,
So, what I've done, in a way, I guess it's been good, because in the past you kind of go from the office to home, and you kind of go, oh, I'm a bit too tired for the gym, but now I feel like I need to get out of the house and go for that walk, and do
yeah,
more exercise. I've actually been doing more exercise because of COVID. So,
yeah, yeah,
in that sense, it's been a positive for me. And the driver is because I need a change of scenery, and
yes,
even if I'm tired, I'll be, mentally speaking, I'm getting cabin fever, and
yeah.
I just need to sort of disconnect from it. For me, that's the only way to do it. I mean, I'm sure other people have been creative about how they can do it within their homes,
Mm.
but I found personally is to actually leave the home and have a change of scenery.
Yeah, hugely important. So we've already were seeing, weren't we, big changes in law and how law's practiced over the last 5 years, with technology, globalization, and all sorts of new sort of ways of working. What are your thoughts about the next 5 years, with, of course, not only what has happened with COVID-19, but, what
Mm.
we're seeing, the way we work? What are your thoughts about how law will head in the next 5 years?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I hope this move to online doesn't become another fad. You know
Mm.
how we had the whole notion of closed plan to open plan, and
Yeah.
that just kind of swept everybody. And now you're kind of seeing, lawyers and some businesses going, yeah, I'm not so sure if open plan's really that great. And I can see the sense in that, because going open plan, while it is collaborative, as a lawyer, you need peace and quiet. You're reading the detail of every line of every contract. If you miss something, that's it, game over.
Yeah.
So from a lawyer's perspective, I've always said, yeah, open plan fine, but not the best, not the
Mm.
most ideal thing. And I feel like that was driven by, I guess, a lot of discourse. It became a fad. It became something that businesses were seeing as the more progressive, modern, agile way of working.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will last. Well, I guess time will tell, and COVID will have an impact on the whole notion of open plan. I think it'll drive, or it will introduce this notion of businesses being open to their employees working from home,
Cool.
and also improving on technological advances in terms of how to access certain things. For example, I guess just little things like being able to refer to a file, in a physical sense, and not having that luxury if you're having to work from home. And maybe it'll allow, or get businesses to sort of move everything online. So if you've
Mm.
got a file, don't print it, don't file it in like you normally would in a traditional sense.
Yeah.
Upload it on a drive, so
Yeah.
that you can view it at any time. So I've worked for businesses where it's been heavily paper driven,
Yes.
and where I'm in currently is heavily online driven, and not
Right.
because of COVID. That's just the way.
Mm.
That's just a way of working. And I guess it makes sense, because it's a business that services the
Yeah.
whole country with employees all over the show, and
Yeah.
so it requires collaboration. Um, so I found that initially very intimidating.
Right.
Um, you know, Technology, for me, can be more stressful than the work of a lawyer itself, the work of lawyering. I found, you know. So, but once you get over that hurdle, it's a dream. It
Yeah.
works great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and that leads me to my next question, which you've raised. What do you foresee as some of the challenges then? And some of those might be around our own mindset, and some of it might be around the processes we used. But, if we're going to move to this kind of blended world or a
Mm.
new way of working, what do you see as some of the challenges?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure you'll be able to appreciate this, but resilience is obviously key, and I think with that is this willingness to adapt,
Yeah.
and to be open to new ways of working.
Mm.
And sometimes, it probably does take a pandemic to force people to adopt a certain type of mentality, because I bet you, pre-COVID, things would have been business as usual. We would have
Exactly.
been heavily paper-based. It would have been very much, office focused. This
Yeah.
whole notion of remote meetings and working from home would have been on a minority of businesses only.
Totally.
So yeah, so I think it's about mindset and being open to looking at new ways of working. For example, I did a mediation a few weeks ago via teleconference, and it was intimidating for me. And I was calling up, MD, and I go, "How's this going to work? Like, do we break up into different
Mm.
rooms? And if we do, is it going to be private?" And they're saying, "Don't worry about it. It's no different than a phone call. We have all the parties in a room. It's teleconference. You're on speaker, and then when you want to have a private chat with me, we hang up and I'll call you.
Mm.
Simple."
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think it's mindset. I think it's just sort of getting familiar with the unknown, and once you sort of have sort of achieved that learning curve, you're sort of in a really good sweet spot. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, people should embrace technology more, because I do think it's being underutilized, particularly in the legal community.
Yeah. Great. So, any other advice that you would give to people who are in law at the moment or entering law, be that whether in private practice or working
Yep.
in-house, your overall thoughts?
Yep. I think for me, what's really worked is to always be open and never say no to any kind of work.
Mm.
I found, saying yes to the little jobs have led to me doing bigger gigs. And
Mm.
I mean that within a law firm, I've managed to, I guess, work for partners who stereotypically you shouldn't really be working for example, because you know how in a structure of a law firm, you've got a partner and you're dedicated to that person, and that's it, sort of full stop. So I guess personally, I'm proud of the fact that I've managed to break that a little bit
Yeah.
in my career. I've managed to sort of network, if you will, amongst partners. And one of the reasons I do that is because I've sort of always offered myself to them in a way that says, no strings attached. You know, if you need me to do something, just ask. I'm not looking for anything in return. I don't want you to give me that file. But what that does create is trust and
Yes.
reliability. And ultimately, when something does pop up, I found it's worked in my favor. They've gone, oh, you know, actually, Glen said he was cool to do that job. No one really wanted it. I think I'm going to give this one to him, and
Yeah.
I'm not really meant to, but I think I will. So that's sort of how I've sort of managed to sort of get ahead in my career personally.
Yeah. Look, that's a great comment. And you spoke about that concept of mindset, yeah? So having a mindset that's open, that's curious, that's up for whatever can be really beneficial in times of change.
Yeah, exactly. And that ties into, you know, being adaptable, being resilient, because, you know, people are afraid of the unknown, right?
Yes.
That's one thing that I've personally am guilty of myself. And when you pick up a piece of work that might not be traditionally up your alley, or not something, say you studied in law school, your fight or flight sort of kicks in, and you kind of go, oh, I don't really want to do that. I'm probably going to mess up and I'm going to look bad. But I've managed to suppress that. I don't ask me how. I just have, and I guess it's just driven for this need to want to progress myself and learn, and you know,
Yeah. So just a final question, you know, through all this, what have you missed, you know, as we're starting to open up? What's going to be a bit of a guilty pleasure or something? You think, gosh, I can't wait to do that.
Yeah, so level 4 was brutal for me. So I'm a big foodie. So I'm originally born in Malaysia, and for us, you know, culturally speaking, there is no culture. Food is the culture.
Yes.
So I've brought that with me over the years. I've been in New Zealand for a while, but I brought that with me over the years. So that was brutal for me, being in level 4 lockdown, and not having those little luxuries was tough. But other than that, I mean, you know, whatever everyone else has been doing, binging Netflix and that kind of thing. I'm definitely enjoying food now and getting more of my takeout. Littlest things like coffee.
I know.
You know, the differences between a plunger and instant versus the real thing. It's great. I'm reading a book at the moment, or trying to, you know, with things like commute time being cut down. I've got it right here. Tony Fernandez's Flying High. So he is the founder of Air Asia, which is a low budget airline that started in Malaysia. And he bought the airline for $1. And now it's like, you know, worth a hell of a lot.
Yeah, great. Hey, well, Glen, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate your time. And look, go and have that coffee, and as we expand a bit more, hopefully connect with your bubble a bit bigger and enjoy that great Malaysian food.
Will do. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate the time.
You're most welcome. Thank you, and that's me signing off.